Younger women are attracted to older men way more than they care to admit. However, older guys ruin almost every single opportunity they get, especially when the girl asks them, "So, how old are you?" And the crazy part, this has nothing to do with your actual age. It's just about avoiding the 5 common mistakes that older men are always making when talking to younger women. So whether you're in your 30s, 40s, 50s, or even 60s, if you can avoid these mistakes that I'm about to go through, you're gonna come off as the confident, dominant older guy that she's secretly hoping that you are. Mistake number 1, making the age gap a big deal. So if you're talking to younger women and deep down inside you believe that, oh my God, I'm so much older than her, this is a little creepy, people might think I'm her dad, right? She's gonna be able to easily pick up on that through your subcommunications, and then she's gonna start thinking it's a big deal. So if you wanna date younger women, you have to at your core believe that this is no big deal. Who gives a shit that I'm 30, 20, 15 years older than her, because age is just a number. Also, never defend your age. So a lot of guys get nervous when they're asked by younger women how old they are. So they're like, I'm 42, but people say I look younger for my age. Fail, right? Girl asks you your age, just answer the question. Be like, yeah, I'm 42, how about you? Easy, right? Simple. That's how you respond to that. Now, if a girl challenges you on your age and she's like, oh, you're a little on the older side, I don't usually date guys that old, then you just treat it like a shit test. Again, a lot of guys start getting defensive, or they try to logically explain why it's better to date an older guy. That's not how you handle it. You just respond with humor. You'd be like, yeah, I know, you're so young, you probably never even had your first sip of beer. Right? Responding with some humor, and then she's gonna be like, no, I've had beer, and suddenly you frame the whole conversation into her being too young rather than you being too old. And you can really just frame anything to be good or bad. For example, when I was in my early 20s, I had a MILF phase where I was going for girls in their late 30s, 40s, and some of those MILFs are just fucking hot. And so a lot of times they would say, you're too young for me, my son is your age, right? And I was really good at reframing that. I'd be like, yeah, look, if you want like an old geezer who needs to take 10 Cialises to get it up, then I don't think I'm your man, you know? I know you don't want a young, vigorous guy. You want some old geezer who's probably decrepit and shit. And right, and the girl will be like, no, I don't want that, right? And bam, now she's on the back foot. And if you're going for younger women as an older guy, you can do the same exact thing. You can rephrase it and reframe things. So for example, you can say something like, yeah, listen, if you want some 18-year-old boy who's some Gen Z faggot who's gonna be on his phone all day, then I guess I'm not your man, right? And again, then she's gonna be on the back foot, and that's the power of framing. Mistake number 2, playing by the old set of rules. Dating has largely changed in the last 2 decades, and you need to adapt. That means you need to learn how to text girls. Gone are the days where you can just call a girl up like you used to 20 years ago, and that was your primary means of communication. And also, you know how a lot of older guys, they just text weird? Well, don't be one of them. You have to learn proper text game. There's no more 3-date rule either. If you have good game, you can sleep with the majority of women on the first or maybe second date, especially given the fact that the kind of girls who go for older guys tend to be, on average, just a little bit more DTF. And if you're trying to do the 3-date rule thing, then you're actually putting yourself at a big disadvantage, because the ultimate form of investment for a girl is sex. So if you want to see the girl for a second or third date, the best thing you can do is sleep with her as fast as possible without coming off as pushy or creepy. Also, another important thing is flaking now is a big thing, right? 20 years ago, you know, when a girl told you she was going to show up Friday at 8 p.m., most likely she was going to show up. Now that's no longer the case, unfortunately. So you have to adjust for that. And there's multiple things you can do here. The first is you can multi-stack dates. So you can set up a date at 6 p.m., set up a date at 8 p.m., set up a date at 10 p.m., right? And then this way, if the 6 p.m. girl flakes, you still have the 8 p.m. girl, right? Or if the 6 p.m. girl shows up, right, you go on the date, and if it's not going well, you just bounce, and then you meet up with the 8 p.m. girl, and so on, right? Another thing you can do is just very straightforward, is you want to plan, stack the logistics so that you don't wind up wasting time. So what I do is I don't leave my house, because I tell the girl to meet me at a bar nearby. I don't leave my house until the girl texts me that she's on the way. And during that time, I'm just doing work, or I'm doing something fun, or I have other plans. So if she flakes or she doesn't show up, I didn't really waste any time, right? I'm not going to meet her halfway. I'm not going to go to a bar near her place, right? Because those are all scenarios where I could very easily waste my time. Mistake number 3, looking old. It doesn't really matter what your actual age is, it matters what it looks like your age is. So obviously some people look a lot older than their age, like there's guys in their 30s who look like they're in their 40s and 50s, and some of them look like they're in their 20s. You generally want to be the latter, right? And let me show you guys some visual examples to really drive this point home. So take a look at the photo on the left. This is a famous actor named Adam Brody, most notorious for this gay little TV show called The OC, which for some reason I used to watch when I was in high school, right? And let's take a look at the actor on the right. His name is John Candy, appropriately named. And so guess which one of them is older? If you guessed it was the guy that looks like Hagrid, you are incorrect. Actually, Adam Brody is older. He was 44 when this photo was taken, and John Candy was about 43 when he passed away, so he was probably 42 or 43 when this photo was taken, right? But they look so much differently. Like the guy that's younger looks like he's 20 years older, right? Let's take a look at another example. So this is actor Paul Rudd, which you guys probably know, with an actor called Wilfred Brimley, right? And he was popular back in his day. So guess which one of them is older, right? Guess which one of them is older in this photo specifically, that's what I mean, right? If you guessed it was the guy with the hat, then you're incorrect. Paul Rudd is actually 5 to 7 years older, right, when these photos were taken. But look how much younger he looks. And so the point is that, of course, part of this is genetic, but if you take good care of yourself, you will look younger than your age. So the question is do you smoke? Do you drink? Do you have a lot of stress in your life? Because that stuff will age you the fuck out. Or do you take good care of yourself? You go to the gym, right? You have a good diet, you take care of your skin, you use products, right? You take care of your hair, you just take care of your overall health in general, right? You're active and all that kind of stuff. That's going to play a huge role in how old you look. And that's going to give you a big advantage is if you're a guy who's in his 40s, but you look like you're in your mid 30s. Also, one important thing I want to mention is that I remember when my dad, was divorced from my mom, and he was like about 50 years old, and he was, a little bit of a player. Like he was getting laid much more than I would expect him to get laid. And so I asked him like, hey, like, why do you think you're hooking up with all these girls that are in their 30s and shit like that? And he said, like, honestly, it comes down to the fact that most guys my age look like shit. I'm the only guy at the pool who has a six-pack, right? And that makes me stand out. And also when I drink vodka, I become confident because, I'm Russian, right? And so we did a Tinder experiment actually at one point where we basically created a profile for my dad, and of course he wound up getting like 200 likes in 48 hours. And again, that's just because he looks good for his age, and that's what you want to be as well. You want to be looking good for your age because that's going to give you a massive advantage. Mistake number 4, acting old. So the stereotype with older people is they're boring. So you don't want to fit that stereotype. You want to be fun. But it doesn't mean that you should act fun. We all know older guys that act like they're in their 20s and it's ultra cringe. You should actually be a fun, interesting person. In theory, as an older person, you have more financial freedom, and thus you have more room to develop a fun, interesting lifestyle. Also, another big stereotype about older guys is they're very stern, right? And obviously that's not that attractive to women. So you don't want to fit that stereotype. Instead, be fun, be funny, joke around, fuck around, maybe even be a little goofy, right? But break that stereotype. And the point of this is this, right? I'm not saying that older people should pretend to be something they're not, because again, that's going to be very apparent to the girl and it's going to come off very try-hard. Instead, actually become that person. Be someone who's more lighthearted. Be someone who's funnier, who's more fun, who lives an interesting lifestyle, right? Something that's, has something going for him, where he doesn't seem like the only thing he has in his life is doing his taxes and going to bed at 8 p.m. Mistake number 5, and this one is extremely common. It's called leading with your wallet. And a lot of older guys do this because they're insecure about their age, they're insecure about the value they offer, so they think, okay, but I can draw the girl in with financial things like gifts and trips and all that. That's a very bad strategy, because then you essentially become her sugar daddy, where she might even sleep with you, right, after making you jump through a million hoops, but as soon as a better sugar daddy comes along, she's just going to dump your ass like that, right? So don't be that guy who leads with your wallet. Now, that doesn't mean that you cannot use your money to attract girls. It has to be done in an indirect way. You do that by upgrading your lifestyles. For example, get yourself an apartment, a really nice place, right in the center of the city, right, where you're just constantly going to be around a lot of women. Or for example, join, like Equinox or like a really nice gym where you're going to have access to hot girls, right? Develop connections with club promoters and stuff like that, so you have access to good places. So use the money to upgrade your lifestyle lifestyle and give you certain accesses, but you don't use that money directly, because again, that's gonna make you a sugar daddy, and that's no bueno. All right, hope you guys found this video valuable. If you're enjoying this content, make sure you subscribe to the channel and hit the bell for notification, because otherwise you will just simply not see my videos. Funny how the YouTube algorithm works. Also, make sure to check out my free Tinder guide. The link is gonna be in the description. It shows you how to get really good photos so you can start getting more matches no matter what your age is, how to write the kind of bio that makes you stand out, and text game, which is something older guys desperately struggle with, so you can get a lot more dates and then you can succeed. So check that out, link in description, it's 100% free. Thank you guys, and until next time.